The brachial plexus is a network of nerves that provides motor and sensory innervation primarily to the upper extremity. The brachial plexus is composed of roots, trunks, divisions, cords, and terminal branches. The 5 roots of the brachial plexus are formed from the ventral primary rami of spinal nerves C5, C6, C7, C8, and T1. The small dorsal scapular nerve arises from the C5 root, pierces the middle scalene muscle, and then travels to the back to innervate the rhomboid muscles. Also arising from the C5, C6, and C7 roots is the long thoracic nerve that innervates the serratus anterior muscle. The 5 roots of the brachial plexus join to form trunks. The C5 and C6 roots unite to form the upper or superior trunk. The C7 root continues distally as the middle trunk. The C8 and T1 roots join to form the lower or inferior trunk. 2 nerves arise from the upper trunk of the brachial plexus. The first is the tiny nerve to subclavius that innervates the subclavius muscle located just under the clavicle. Part of the subclavius nerve is seen here. The second nerve is the larger suprascapular nerve that travels posteriorly to innervate the supraspinatus and infraspinatus muscles that form part of the rotator cuff around the shoulder. The 3 trunks each divide into anterior and posterior divisions. The anterior and posterior divisions of the upper trunk, the anterior and posterior divisions of the middle trunk, the anterior and posterior divisions of the lower trunk. No nerves arise directly from the divisions of the brachial plexus. The 6 divisions of the brachial plexus rejoin to form 3 cords that are named for their position relative to the second part of the axillary artery. The anterior divisions of the upper and middle trunks join to form the lateral cord of the brachial plexus. The anterior division of the inferior trunk continues distally as the medial cord. It is located medial to the second part of the axillary artery. The posterior cord of the brachial plexus is formed from the union of all 3 posterior divisions. From the lateral cord of the brachial plexus, 2 nerve branches arise. The first is the lateral pectoral nerve that travels anteriorly to innervate the pectoralis major and pectoralis minor muscles. The second is the musculocutaneous nerve that pierces the coracobrachialis muscle and innervates it, as well as the other muscles located in the anterior compartment of the arm. 4 nerve branches arise from the medial cord. The most proximal nerve is the medial pectoral nerve that travels anteriorly. It pierces the pectoralis minor muscle to innervate it before innervating the overlying pectoralis major muscle. The medial pectoral nerve and the lateral pectoral nerve communicate with each other via a neural loop called the ansa pectoralis. This neural loop is the reason that both pectoral nerves are said to innervate both pectoral muscles. Just distal to the medial pectoral nerve are two cutaneous nerves. The first is called the medial cutaneous nerve of the arm. It provides sensory innervation to the skin on the medial side of the arm. The second is a longer nerve called the medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm. The most distal nerve branch from the medial cord is the ulnar nerve. Together, the lateral and medial cords contribute to a terminal nerve branch called the median nerve. One way to identify the median nerve is that it forms part of a capital letter M. The musculocutaneous nerve forms the lateral side of the M, the median nerve forms the middle of the M, and the ulnar nerve forms the medial side of the M. From the posterior cord of the brachial plexus, 5 nerves arise. The first 3 nerve branches coming off the posterior cord from proximal to distal are called the upper, middle, and lower subscapular nerves. The upper subscapular nerve innervates the subscapularis muscle. The middle subscapular nerve is also called the thoracodorsal nerve. This thoracodorsal nerve travels inferiorly to innervate the latissimus dorsi muscle. The lower subscapular nerve divides into 2 branches that innervate the subscapularis and teres major muscles. The axillary nerve travels around the inferior edge of the subscapularis muscle. It exits the axilla by passing proximal to the tendon of latissimus dorsi. The axillary nerve innervates the deltoid muscle and the teres minor muscle before providing some sensory innervation to the skin of the shoulder. The most distal nerve arising from the posterior cord of the brachial plexus is the radial nerve. The radial nerve passes distal to the tendon of latissimus dorsi and travels posteriorly around the shaft of the humerus to innervate the muscles of the posterior arm and posterior forearm.